Okay, I'm calling this meeting to order at 6:35. Madam Secretary, please
Yes,
call the roll.
Amamu? Not absent. Dada? Here. Pulse?
Here.
Huggins here. Kelleher?
Here.
Mills? Here. Shay?
Here.
Shire?
Here.
And Wallen.
Here.
And all right.
Thank you. Will you, is there, oh wait, land acknowledgement.
Yes, I agree. Before colonization and settlement by people of European descent, the place we know as Evanston was home to the Potawatomi, Adawa, and Ojibwe tribes, also known as the Council of the Three Fires. It also served as an important crossroads and meeting place for a number of other indigenous tribal nations, including the Ho-Chunk, Illinois, Anoka, Kickapoo, Miami, Menominee, Peoria, and Sauk and Fox nations. We acknowledge and honor the original people of this land, as well as the indigenous people that still call this area home, and support their continued work on self-determination and sovereignty. While so doing, we honor indigenous protocol and remind ourselves and our community that land acknowledgements do not exist in the past tense.
Thank you very much. Is there citizen comment?
Yes, there's one person signed up for citizen comment in person. It is Akila Bay.
Oh, hello, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm glad I was able to come today for you and speak and say hello. First, I'd like to again thank all of you for participating and coming, because more and more times we have the opportunity to actually read. We understand that you do a lot of work, and it's for the benefit of us and our community. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is that there was a communication subcommittee. And I just wanted to bring forth that when we are walking through the library, we notice that there are several electronic pieces of material that can be read. In the elevator, I have seen that there's, weather and different things going through, but it seems to glitch in and out a lot. And so people are looking to get in the elevator and look up and see the weather and see something that's going on that can be programmed. And now we want to know, or could we have someone look into telling us whether or not you all, as the board, are the ones that make the decisions as to what is put on the screens in the elevators? What is put on the screens right before you get on the elevators? Having knowledge that I myself look at that information to see what's there. Maybe we also should have someone put something up on our main board to ask all of our businesses and other nonprofits that if they want to participate, they should be able to. Because we have a lot of mothers and family who come in and they go to that board and they just skim it. And if my husband or wife owns a small business or a nonprofit, and maybe networking can happen in that appearance. So that was one of the things I wanted to bring up as far as that subcommittee communications part, dealing with the information that's put on the board out there, which is a wealth of information. Maybe somebody can get with the team to talk about how we can organize it better to where stuff that is for the library, to the library, and pertains to the library only should be put in one section of the board. So I can just focus on one section of the board and I can read information that talks about what's going in the library, what you're supporting as a library board and members, what's going on in that library. So then I can move to the other section and then I can say, okay, that's going to be happening off site, or that's a special guest that's coming in. But that, I look at that as being something that we should look at as a whole. Say when I walk in the building and I go to this big massive board of all this information, it should be split into two sections where everything dealing with library and everything dealing with guests and appearances and outside sources, discounts and all the other things that we see on the tables, so that we ourselves can go one area where we're looking for things. So now I brought up the issue dealing with the board outside and the wealth of information and how someone should look and see if it is worth their time and energy to ask the question, is it possible to break that board down to where all visitors can see what is library information and what is information that is outside the library? Then, of course, we did a digital board. right as above in the center of the, both of the elevators. As far as what's put on the board and how others can obtain to put things on the board, if that's something that the board and the library even entertains. Then finally, again, going over the elevator, when we go in the elevator, we see certain messages that apply. For all we know, you all don't control any of that. For all we know, that is something that's, somebody's donating their money to have published across there. But a lot of times, like today, if you walk on that elevator, it's solely blank. And you walk on the other one and it blinks. And it's something that, should be looked at. I thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Next item is the consent agenda. I've already noticed that, I believe I provided my comments in writing, but they are not a part of the, item B.
It's for the regular
Yeah,
board.
yeah, for the regular board meeting, so I will forward those to you, Heather, so that they can be included. Are there any other changes to any of the items within the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the amendment of adding comments to the item B?
So moved. Mills.
Is there a second?
Second. Shank. Approval of the consent agenda with Tracy's amendment to, sorry, Tracy, was that
B, yep, 4B.
B? All right, Dada? Yes. Pulse?
Yes.
Huggins, yes. Kelleher? Yes. Mills? Yes. Shay? Yes. Shire?
Yes.
And Wall?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okey dokey. Now, let's begin with the director's report.
Yes. Right, so. Thank you very much, everyone, trustees. The director's report for April is included in your packet. I wanted to highlight a couple of items, just bring it to your attention. So the first item, negotiations for the next AFSCME collective bargaining agreement have begun, so that's in progress. Anticipate to take some number of months, but I will let you know when that has reached the point where we are signing a new CBA. Also, the second item in updates is that we are on track to meet this month's WCAG 2.1 level AA compliance deadline under Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act. I think you're all aware that this is a pretty big change for public entities in terms of digital accessibility requirements. So thanks very much to Ellen, our marketing and communications manager, who is spearheading that for the library. She's doing training with staff who create any digital materials. You will see the board packets will look different in the future. Some items, the way that formatting is need to change in order to be compatible. So be happy to answer any questions once you see those changes. I did want to give one stat that you'll see in next week or next month's report officially. But some of you may be aware that we recently concluded having free tax preparation appointments here at the library through AARP. And in coordination with the city. It used to be hosted exclusively at this Navy Senior Center, and because of spaceship issues and other logistical concerns, it's been moved to the main library. So those wonderful volunteers through AARP just concluded those appointments, and we had 672 tax returns prepared.
Whoa.
It's amazing. So that's a huge number. They did say that given this location, they did see a sort of different audience. There was no age limit or income limit to who they could help. So they did say that it seemed like they saw maybe more diverse ages at this location than they had seen at the UB Senior Center. So that's exciting. And then also in the upcoming programs of note, one program that I wanted to add a shout out to that's not in this list is this Saturday, the STEM Fest and Cardboard Carnival Showcase is happening at Fleetwood Jourdain Community Center in the afternoon. So that's a partnership with EPL and D65 and other community organizations focused on STEM activities for youth in Evanston. And all of those kids who've been working on their cardboard carnival games will be showing them, you can go play them. It's really fun. So if anybody has a chance to stop by Fleetwood Jourdain this Saturday, I would encourage it. And then two other events I also wanted to point out. Our lifelong learning team is doing some events, specifically librarian Sally Vinizaka, who is hosting a number of events now, both in English and Spanish. So you'll notice in the list here that we have one at the end of this month that's on common scams and prevention tips, where she'll host one session in English and then one session in Spanish, and also Beyond the Basics with Libby, so helping people use ebooks, etc. So I just wanted to point that out to you as an expansion of our service. I'm happy to answer any questions. If you have any.
I just have one thank you to Ellen in particular at getting us up to compliance for the new ADA requirements. This is a ton of work, and I know we don't even know if we're gonna be held accountable through the federal government on these types of things right now, but we do know that it's high risk and not compliant, and it does increase access to people who need it. So thank you for doing that. It's a ton of work, and I'm grateful that we're compliant on this important new piece of legislation. So thank you.
For sure. Are there any other questions, comments, or feedback?
I also want to know, we didn't get any additional funding to do this work. I asked Ellen about that too. And so this is just like, you know, there's a lot of requirements that go into place like this that we don't get extra money for, and a lot of extra labor. So
For sure. Okay, let's move on to the administrative services report.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I think I have a good news for you.
Oh,
First thing is about the facility management. He's cleared, so by Monday he'll be starting. There has been the bond approvals, so 37 million that was approved, which includes 1 million for the line.
yeah.
That's approved as well. And then we have the levy thing, as you know, like our auditors said it like by February, we need to close the accounts whatever we have as a levy, that would be count as FY 2025, but after February, whatever levy we have, it will count as 2026. So in your board package, if you see like right now, it shows 1.4 million levy. That's increased in levy for FY 2025 and FY 2026. So, but as of today, like till April 13, we received a levy overall of around 4 million. So the county has processed their work and it's coming quickly now. So hopefully this year we won't have any issues with that.
Alright.
Already for a capital expenditure, like where we said like 990,000 that we encumbered. So we have already thought about the bonds. The bonds will be issued, will be somewhere in summer, but I'm not sure when. But as soon as I get a meeting I hear from the city, I'll let you know about that. And for our FY 2025 fiscal year, there will be a deficit in the levy. It's around like 732,000 deficit. So you'll see that deficit, but it will be covered this year in FY 2026. So we'll be having more levy what we have budgeted for FY 2026. And I'm happy to answer if you have any questions on that.
I don't have a question, but thank you for navigating increasingly complex. I don't even know what word I would use, but the county, the city, navigating all of those intersections, so thank you. Is there additional feedback for Selena? No, thank you so much.
Temporarily, because we're handling facilities.
Oh, right. Oh, boy. Okay, speaking of which, the facilities report.
Yeah, so thank you. As Samir said, our new facilities manager is scheduled to start on Monday, so we're very excited about that, and we'll bring him to introduce to you soon, I'm sure. The other main project that's happening, as you know, is the roof project. The weather has not really cooperated in the last few weeks with all of this rain and wind, and at the beginning of the project, snow even. But we are on track. The plan is for the next phase, which is lifting all of the materials up onto the roof, to happen tomorrow. And it coincides with the day that we're closed because of our staff, all staff in service day. So that's kind of might be good timing in terms of not disrupting patrons too much, because we're already closed anyway. So tomorrow morning, if you drive by here, you'll see a crane in front of the building lifting materials onto the roof. Assuming the weather cooperates, we're at that. And the only other thing I wanted to point out here was in the safety summary, you'll see that under the turning point stats, the mobile crisis response team reported 110 interactions in the main library last month. So that is the highest number we've seen. So they are interacting with our patrons and talking to folks and telling them about resources available to them. So we really value that partnership with Turning Point. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Are there any questions about the facilities report?
I just have one question, and maybe I remember it just wrong, but the garage door, was it broken before? And I feel like it's the second time, it's always broken.
It's broken a lot of use. I can't remember if the last fix was on the entry door or the exit door. This was the exit door that needed some hinge replacement.
Oh, thank you.
Just want to add, like, this hitch, we had an issue last 2 months ago as well. But we didn't because of the staff, but this time when it happened, so the city said we need to change that hours and everything. If we call the. They did it also and then. Change.
Okay, thank you. Okay, developments.
You have the April board report in your packets, and the only item that I wanted to specifically point out is that one of the goals of the strategic development advancement plan was to shift more income into the first quarter and spread income out throughout the years, and we're not quite as fourth quarter. And part of that plan had been to start the spring appeal at the beginning of March this year instead of waiting until April as we normally do, as well as expand the work around the spring appeal and pull more items into it. We were not able to start it as early in March as we wanted to. There was a lot of things going on at the library and in the news, and we decided it was probably better to wait a little bit. So we started that at the end of March. So there's a little bit of income in March for the spring appeal. Next year, hopefully we can also continue building more into the first quarter. But otherwise, we're pretty much on track. So, is there any questions on the report? I did have a few items of note for April that are not in the report. One is for the April 19th trivia event. I would like to just give a plug if you have not signed up but would like to come. Please do so. We are at 60 participants that is up tonight. And the really exciting part of that is over 40% of those participants are new in our donor database. So that's really awesome. One of our goals is really to encourage these people to come into our donation pool. And so we have met some of that goal. That does not mean in the library, obviously, but new to me. So that's very exciting. Also, I was asked to give an announcement about the volunteer team, which is on Wednesday, April 22nd at 3:30 here in this room. As board members, you are volunteers extraordinaires. You are, of course, all welcome to come. You have received your invitations, and also to come and talk to our volunteers and say hello and thank you to all of our many volunteers that we really have here. And finally, I have some very breaking news, a nice announcement that we have an anonymous donor who has made $1 million to the library. We are very, very thankful for their investment in our library at this time and their caring for our community and investing in this way, which is just really, really wonderful. The majority of that will be for our endowment fund so that we will be protecting and growing that money in the future. And we're just really so share that.
Wow, I wish that I could make laser shoot out of my hands. Well done.
Thank you to Tracy and Heather and Michelle, who really also helped steward that gift and that relationship. It's been a nice effort and I've enjoyed having this nice up.
Awesome. Great work, Jennifer. Congratulations.
I'm sure everybody wants to just say congratulations, well done, thank you. Thank you so much.
Glad I can now say that out loud.
Right,
Yeah, very good.
are there any additional comments, thoughts that you'd like to share? Besides Yahoo, thank you so much.
All great news.
So we'll go into the development first quarter report then. Which, it has the narrative description of that in your packet, that have slides that are just a more visual depiction of those pieces. So we'll just go right into the second slide. And so this is an overview of where we are today. So you can see overall, we're at 23% of our total goal. And the library donations are at 19% of goal. Per capita, we have submitted our application. We generally hear from them in July or August. For federal grants, we have received the full payment of our $39,000 from the Illinois State Library Project Next Generation, which means we do not anticipate additional federal funds this year. At this point, we have other federal grants outstanding that we would not fund in 2026. So we really pretty much max out that line at this point. And the library grants we continue to work on and hope to bring in additional funds this year. Go to the next slide, please. So for library donations specifically, this is a comparison of where we are first quarter this year compared to first quarter last year. And we are higher in percentage to goal, but you can also see our goal is higher this year, obviously by quite a bit. So it just puts us nicely tracking nicely. Next slide. So development activities in quarter one, we started the year by building a new value structure in the database to better support data analysis and reporting. We laid down the campaign structure, strategy to include a more robust spring campaign. As I mentioned previously, the spring campaign was primarily in April and it was primarily tied to setting a phase report. And this year we've really talked about reaching out to specific audiences, cultural engagement, and having the event. So we're really trying to build the momentum early in the year. We also concentrated on donor outreach. We have volunteers who personally wrote thank you notes to donors. We've engaged donors through several emails, including asking how they wanted to be listed in the report and sharing information about the one's departure. And it was actually one of these emails that started this whole process of our current major gift. So obviously very worthwhile. And then a lot of personal outreach as well by email, by phone, personal meetings, and that's not just myself, Tracy, Michelle, Diana's really Heather, everyone who's been involved in reaching out to donors and it's been very side of the slide, please. So the results of that are for the strategic development plan, or the work that was done was based on the strategic development plan, I should say. As you can see, we've completed the majority of the first quarter objectives, and it's really institutional giving corporate and big brands at the bottom where we're still working on those pieces, but everything else we have. In fact, in the packet, it does say that the setting the annual volunteer fundraising goal is in progress, but actually that was completed this week. So I was able to change that. I had a meeting with the people had a meeting earlier this week, and I was able to attend, and we got some good conversation. Next slide. So looking forward, the big question is, will we make our goal in 2026? And I think the answer is, it depends. We can't ignore reality. There's the economy, gas prices, war, things going on in the library world, in our worlds. But we are in a good position going forward overall, following the strategic development plan. And we also still have a lot of work to do. Next slide. So, we're breaking it down by quarter. You can see that we are on track and above where we hope to be by the end of the first quarter. And so that is, again, positive. And we also have a bigger goal this year and a lot of work to do to reach that goal. Next. Our two main priorities for the rest of the year is, again, to expand our donor pool, get new donors, and to solicit major gifts. Bringing back audiences into the fold, such as lapsed donors and former trustees. And replacing lost donors when we have had a few major donors who, for some reasons of their own or like reasons, we won't be having as much giving from them this year, so we will need to make up some of those debts as well. Even with our new donor, you know, that's not going to get us all the way where we need to be, since that gift is primarily endowment. So we will continue with events. We will continue to work on sponsorship as an area that can have some growth, and library credits can have some growth as well. I think that's next. That's it. Any questions?
Jen, could you give me an example of a sponsorship event opportunity?
Sure. Well, for the trivia night, we had us eventually had sponsors if that was something that we had been
okay.
to focus on and work towards.
I thought that's what it was. I just wanted. Okay.
Programs or children's, children's library section, if you know, could be sponsored. Yeah.
I don't have a question, but a comment. This is so helpful. So thank you for this work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, now the board committee reports. Which Heather, because I'm middle-aged and likely to forget, can we remember to put oral on this? Because not all the reports, not saying oral implies that there should have been something attached, and there may not be. So we'll make sure to set the oral. Okay, so I'll start with my comments. This evening, I'd like to reflect on what it means to be thoughtful stewards of this institution and the resources entrusted to us. Stewardship is not just about budgets or policies, it's about making decisions that ensure the long-term health, stability, and integrity of the Evanston Public Library. And over the past few years, this board has taken that responsibility very seriously. Together, we have strengthened the foundation of this organization in ways that will serve our community for years to come. We've moved from temporary structures to permanent ones, embedding equity into our governance, professionalizing key functions like development, marketing, and finance, and ensuring that our operations match the level of excellence our community deserves. We addressed longstanding staffing challenges and rebuilt internal capacity. We modernized how the library engages with the community and how it manages its financial resources. And we made critical decisions to protect this institution from securing our fund balance to ensuring that the essential infrastructure investments were not deferred, like a roof. We also made intentional choices about the future, developing a strategic plan grounded in community voice and positioning the library for long-term sustainability and growth. And these are not small things. But these are the kinds of decisions that often go unseen, but they allow a public institution to remain strong, responsive, and resilient. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that next week is National Library Week, a time to celebrate the roles that libraries play in our communities. And while libraries are places of learning for sure, they're also community assets that reflect our values. It's not lost on me that 672 tax returns were filed for free, or that 110 interactions were supported by the Mobile Crisis Response Team. At the same time, libraries like ours are navigating increasingly complex challenges. Recent events involving library leadership in places like Tennessee are a reminder that this work requires courage and clarity and the idea that strong, thoughtful governance matters. Here in Evanston, we remain committed to ensuring our library continues to serve the full community with integrity, care, and intention. A plan that was supported by an anonymous donor who so believed in our approach that they invested in a meaningful way. And that brings us where we are today. The work in front of us now is to continue that stewardship by ensuring a thoughtful and transparent process for selecting the next permanent leader. The interim period is about maintaining stability while taking the time to get the decision right. Thoughtful stewardship means knowing when to move with urgency and when to take the time required to make the right decision. And as my term as board president comes to a close, we're also taking the next step in our governance process with seating a nominating committee. This ensures a thoughtful transition in board leadership, just as we are ensuring thoughtful process for the library's next executive leader. That alignment reflects our commitment to continuity, stability, and strong governance at every level. Our responsibility is not just to act, but to act with care, clarity, and intention. Because this library belongs to the community, and our role is to ensure that it continues to thrive, not just for today, but for the future. Thank you. Finance.
Nice, all right. So the finance committee discussed 3 main items this month. The first update is that following our March board meeting here, city council met on March 23rd to discuss whether the library should be reabsorbed into the city as a department. We do not know whether the city has the legal authority to do that. From a finance committee perspective, the relevant point is that this discussion also brought renewed attention to the pending intergovernmental agreement and lease between the city and the library. Some council members appear to be looking for an alternative to reabsorption, and the concern about the possibility of litigation from the library or other entities seemed to be part of that discussion as well. One idea raised was whether the mayor could appoint a city council member to the library board as a way to provide greater confidence in governance between the two bodies. At the end of the discussion, though, city council agreed for now to allow the city and the library 90 days to move the lease of the IGA forward. We have not received a formal update since then, but we understand that our attorney is continuing to work with the city. The underlying issues remain the same though. First, that the library needs a workable path to capital in order to pursue the publicly approved strategic planning goals tied to medium-term maintenance and longer-term capital improvements. And second, that we need to resolve the structure, scope, and reliability of purchased services from the city, especially HR. So this item remains pending. The second update from finance is that, as Samir mentioned, city council approved $30 million in bonds this week, including approximately $990,000 for the library share of the roof work. That amount was already included in the FY26 budget, so no further action is needed from this board. The third update is we have now received all back receipts due for Cook County for FY25. The finance committee also discussed the levy related audit concerns that Samir mentioned. The staff is working with the city and other libraries on developing a mitigation approach. It sounded like what Samir said tonight, we're going to handle everything from February or earlier as FY25 and later with FY26. So it sounds like we've landed on an audit approach. The rest of the finance items are covered in tonight's packet. I think we're going to come to the trivia on Sunday. I think you may have heard that the Dewey Decimators are going to lose to the Baby Got Stacks team. You're there. All right, that's it.
Thank you.
Management. Good evening, everyone. We had our management meeting about an hour or so ago. We spent some time doing a FOIA and OMA refresher. I will share that with Heather. I made a one pager that we could have up while we're having our meetings, just so we have a good understanding of how to make sure that we are being transparent when we are working in this space. The other thing that we did was, I also made a document with governing, all our governing documents in one place, so that we have an easy access to look at those things in one location. I will also add that to the notebook LM, which is the AI support with documents. So if you have any questions, you can ask there. Of course, like we always say, AI is an intern, you have to check it, but it is a quick way for you to get your answers to any questions that you have. The last thing we talked about in the meeting was announcements and events. We had said that we wanted to make sure that we look at the calendar together on a regular basis to make sure that we are going to events that we feel that are important, both that are library-based and community-based. So we did go ahead and talk about the ones through the month. We also went through and made sure that, and I can also send this over to Heather, so we know the instructions, but there's a way for you to make sure you're getting notifications anytime somebody puts something on the calendar. You're getting email, and then that way you can go ahead and reply if you're going to go or not. That way, when we have our management meeting, we can go ahead and have those discussions about who will go to those events. And that is everything. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Facilities.
Yes.
I obviously don't have much to add to the director's report. The facilities committee has not met recently for several reasons. Chief among them, a desire not to create another meeting burden for library staff who have already been stretched due to the ongoing absence of facilities manager. My statement here was, unless the facilities manager begins work before the end of May, I do not anticipate a meeting of the committee before the end of my term. However, that will happen now. For the record, my term on the Evanston Public Library Board concludes on June 30th. I plan to serve until its conclusion. However, I've decided not to seek reappointment. My decision is based on my observations of the treatment of Black women in leadership roles within this institution and its broader governance environment. I do not wish to continue serving in a way that could be understood as endorsing or approving practices and norms that I believe are wrong. Public libraries are free, open to everyone, and not about making them. They're places where shared freedom can be built or taken away, unless issues of leadership culture, equity, and accountability are named and taken seriously. And that can only happen when someone is willing to point to and to name the threat. I have observed conditional inclusion. Black women are present at the table, but advocating for change is discouraged. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and thank you for your service. Thank you for saying that. DEIB.
Unfortunately, we were not able to meet this month, and so I don't have a report.
Thank you so much. Communications.
Unfortunately, the communications committee did not have a quorum for our April 7th meeting, so we did not conduct business. We look forward to next month.
Thank you. Okay, so now on to old business. The agenda item is resourcing interim / direct executive director search. Excuse me, included in your packet is a memo that I wrote, pardon me, about how we might want to think about our next steps, right? To everybody, I think should be caught up, but essentially, we planned to do an interim search. We did an RFP. We received an RFP. We identified through our process, there was only one qualified proposal. But given the expense of the proposal and perhaps some changes in Heather's capacity, it seemed appropriate for us to have a discussion about what we wanted to do given that change. Are there any questions about kind of where we were previously and where we are in this moment? No? Okay, so my thinking was that, given my presidential power, I could appoint an ad hoc committee, a subset of 3 who would be charged with formalizing whatever the terms of the interim leadership would be for at least the next 12 months. Drafting an RFP proposal for a permanent executive director. And then ensuring that we don't incur any unnecessary additional fees and reserving our resources for a permanent recruitment process. I'll be frank, that is the extent of what I imagined, but I'm absolutely open to, it's for discussion and action, so if there are pieces that you think are missing, I'd like us to discuss those before I entertain the motion.
Well, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
just summarize what the motion.
The motion would be a committee who would formalize the interim leadership, be responsible for drafting the RFP and making sure that our, budget was
Right, okay.
in alignment.
Okay.
I can just establish the committee, but I don't want to do it that way. I want to make sure that we're all pulling in the same direction with the same expectations. Because establishing the committee and then nobody volunteers to do it would be really deeply unfortunate. I also recognize that there may be elements of this discussion that are appropriate for executive session. And so, but in terms of structure, that part needs to happen publicly.
Yes,
Yeah.
so I think that's what I was just noodling through also, was the parts of this are appropriate for executive session, parts of it are not. The structure of the ad hoc committee makes sense to me. I think that there's part of this that needs to be done by the whole group. And before that committee can begin in earnest, I think.
So let me repeat back what I heard you say. Are you saying we need to have a discussion in executive session before people would be able to commit to volunteering to serve?
Yes.
Is that,
I think otherwise people won't have it, if it's not clear to people exactly what they're volunteering for. But we could probably do it now, and I suppose people know what they're, it's pretty obvious, I think.
now, before I say they're asking for volunteers. Yep, yes.
I'm just saying that here that have it for the next 12 months.
Mhm.
So for trustees that are not going to be here for the next, and I don't know what one's term is. Are we say they can't do it? Are we okay with people? Like, what does that look like?
That's a good point.
Say that out loud.
Another way to ask that question is, are there timelines on these taxes? That would be helpful to know.
I think that would be the responsibility of the committee to set those.
Okay,
I
so then I
think,
revert to
Mhm.
that question.
I think one of the things that I'm noticing that we're not being as efficient as we could be because we are all on every task. And we really need to get more efficient. Like, we all can't be doing the same thing all the time, right? And this task is so large. It really requires, and urgent, so it really requires a little mobility. Like, scheduling 9 people for weekly meetings is very difficult. Scheduling 3 people for weekly meetings, much easier.
Still difficult.
Still difficult, but
Easier,
but
yeah.
easier. And so my hope would be that the committee would be formed and then immediately hit the ground running. And to your question, I hadn't considered what we would do about the trustee cliff. My instinct would be that if any of the 2 trustees that, or, well, not Katie,
Not Katie.
the other 2, that we could volunteer, but we would also need to be aware that
You might be.
that we may not be there. And who would be the person to tag in? I mean, that's how it works. It's gonna happen every year. So
Yeah,
we need to be thoughtful about this. And it doesn't mean that you can't participate in other board service. But the last time we saw an executive director, I actually didn't look at my calendar to count, but we had 2 meetings a week for months.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's not like it's like a job.
you mean during the search?
Yeah,
process?
during the
Yeah.
search.
I came in at the end of that, so I missed that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we met every Friday plus an additional meeting, plus our normal board cadence stuff. So this is no,
It's like
not
a
selling.
job. It's crazy
You're
because
really-
we all have actual jobs.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
right, that's what I'm saying, it's like a job, I know, cause I have a job. It's like a job. I'm not doing a great job selling it, it's super fun to work with your colleagues.
It's one of the most important things this board is
Yeah.
working on.
That's true.
Would we want some continuity with some of the folks who were involved last time, so we could celebrate perhaps the process based on lessons learned from that previous experience?
Your continuity would be being Tracy.
Yeah,
You too.
right,
Yeah.
and so,
Oh, and Megan.
and Megan,
Yeah.
Later, yeah.
yeah, and then Katie too.
Yeah, I was on the end. Yeah.
You had a powerful role.
Not at the end, but just for picking and drafting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, yeah,
Megan, have you been working on the, I thought work had been going forward on a job search. But you were working on, or,
The process piece started, right, yeah, it's clear about
right,
that, but then we moved to the RFP.
got it,
That's
right,
really,
okay.
the first thing that really
That's
did
where
that
we-
happen,
right.
yeah. So, yeah, I would say, it sounds to me like the people who are on this committee have work to do about exactly what it will be,
mhm,
right? And what the roles and the expectations are,
mhm,
and then to get going,
yes,
is that right?
yep. I think the rough structure is in fact a rough structure,
Yeah,
because there's I can't remember who said it, there's a timeline, like what are the timelines, there are, what's the budget? Because, I mean, we didn't plan to do this, so
yeah,
we need to figure out like how much money do we have to spend on solving this problem. And it's not unlimited, even though we just got $1 million, it's not unlimited,
right, right.
we're not spending the money on that. So,
I'm wondering if we want 2 ad hoc committees, one to formalize the interim leadership and then one to draft the proposal, the RFP, if that would kind of lighten the load.
what my goal is that it seems like the more of us that are on something, the longer it will take. And, the one thing that we absolutely don't have, the 2 sort of gaps are time and leadership. Not that we don't have any leadership.
Right, but
But time and leadership. And so how do we avoid, like, let's not forget Heather's already done this before, not to talk about you when sitting there, but she's already done this before. And so, and made it clear, like, this is not, she is the assistant director for a reason. She wants to be programming public facing work, and it shouldn't, the role of the executive director. Let me say this other thing. What happened in Tennessee really has me thinking a lot about how board governance should work, right? And what we don't want is to put someone who is a skilled librarian into a role that they don't want. Like, that is not how it should work. And given what executive directors are up against, it, even what Katie articulated, given what anybody is going to be up against, irrespective of their racialized identity, like, this is difficult, like the IGA, the lease, collective bargaining, like, these are not little things, these are big things.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that the person is appropriately, or not the person, that the position is appropriately resourced.
Yeah, and anybody who takes this job is well aware of the environment, is aware of a lot of environmental facing,
Yeah.
because library is a small world. Okay, the RFP is, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the RFP as being a repeat of what we just did, is that
Yep.
basically, okay?
Essentially, instead of it being for interim, being for a permanent, there's already, I mean, we wrote an RFP too, like, let's not forget, 2 years ago, we did all this.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's only one RFP, there's now 2 RFPs that we've done. So, take one of those 2. And
Yeah.
you'll have something.
Well, the most recent one was based on the last one too, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But-
not, I mean, we're not a group.
So let me, I don't know if, I feel like I'm not disagreeing with Esther's comment that this, at the very least, is non-parallel work here. And so asking 3 people to be responsible for this like tranche of work is one idea, but another idea is to say, did you think of it that way because it's 3 like tranche, 3 core things?
The reason I thought of it that way was that having 3 separate people write the RFP while 3 other people are determining what the job is not a good use of time.
Yeah,
Because what that means then is that the 6 people will have to get together.
right,
To
I don't like
discuss
that
it.
either.
So that's what I was like,
Yeah,
And then
when-
your person committee could say, okay, of the 3 of us, person A, you're tasked with task A, task 1. So it can still be split up. It doesn't-
yeah, that's what I'm wondering too, but the RFP development is down the road also, and that's what I'm wondering too, the interim oversight
well,
issue.
maybe not. So so I'm not attacked. Please note that what I'm saying is not an endorsement of a specific process. This is just what could happen.
Sure.
Theoretically, those 3 people could get together and be like, we wrote the RFP based on what we've seen before. We're gonna put it out. It's gonna be out for 30 days. And we also happen to find a firm that is willing to do X. And they can start tomorrow and they'll support Heather in these ways or blah, blah, like. I no longer think that we as a group should be like committing to a process without, like, it seems like there's so many moving pieces that we need to kind of narrow. Like, okay, what is the best route? So if it is, we're gonna hire a consultant. If it is, like, they should do all of the research and then come to us and be like, at our next meeting, like, here's what we think we should do. And then we can just move forward on that, rather than, that terrible expression of building a plane while flying it. It feels like we're trying to solve problems on a daily basis. And given that we all have other, like, jobs that pay us, it's not possible to do that effectively. So that was why I was thinking 3 people. They're willing to do the heavy lift of all of the research, so that what they bring to the next meeting is like, here is a plan. And we could say, I love the plan, but I hate this part,
Sure.
and let's do this instead. I think that would be totally reasonable. But I just don't think we're getting where we need to go. I'm also open to be wrong about that, but I'd say, no, this is exactly right. It's where we should be. But it doesn't feel like we're getting where we need to go.
Research is my day job.
So this is the problem.
No,
Like, research is your day job, recruiting is your day job, career coaching is your day job. Like, COOs are your day job, like, But I don't want, like, I don't think it's fair to just be like, because this is your day job, you
Right.
are responsible for it, like, but also, we gotta get this, we gotta get going.
What I was gonna say is, I definitely have an expiration date. However, if we know that,
Yeah,
I could have an expiration date on a committee. And someone could be in the wings to perhaps pick that up and, I have little self-control when it comes to research, so just give me a topic and I'll go nuts. So, I mean, I'm willing to do some of this work
okay,
as long as everyone's okay with the fact that I won't be here past the May board meeting, yes, June board, I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
But
She'll be on through May and June.
yeah,
Right.
June will be your last,
okay,
they start July 1.
all right, so.
Are we discussing interest in things or just the idea of?
Just the idea of, I think Michelle's point about needing maybe executive session to talk a little more detailed
About, yeah, that,
about,
what
yeah.
people's job, what actual assignments would look like.
So the motion here would be to have an ad hoc committee.
Yeah.
And so we can either approve that now or not, and you don't
Yeah.
need to have the members right now.
Yep,
Okay, so are you making a motion?
no, I'm gonna ask for it.
I'm just want to clarify, do we all agree that we need further discussion before we can express interest? Does anyone feel like they're not able to express interest pending additional information?
I would like to know a little bit more about time boxing this process.
Yeah,
I can
that's,
commit to that. Katie, you just, that's for this in my
right,
mind.
yeah.
You know, I'm thinking that's 2.5 months.
Well, I heard Tracy say she wanted something to come over the board meeting next month, so it sounded
Yeah,
like
it's
A
this.
recommendation.
They're doing quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds like there could be additional work for people on this committee, but I would recommend that we turn it into something else after next month, perhaps. If you're open to that, because I wouldn't want anyone to commit to.
Oh, that's.
Doing like beyond what's initially researched proposed next month, because it could go many different directions after we make a decision next month.
That's true,
That's fair,
that's fair.
so. Sorry. Thinking of a committee that we used to call the committee, the planning to plan committee, that must have- yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, to have a time box ad hoc committee to determine what. Be like. You know, like search committees or whatever we wanna call it, is that, that's what I think I heard you say, Michelle.
Yeah, perhaps the plan that comes before the board next month could even have something as specific as the potential for roles, like what is needed to
What is
execute
needed,
this,
yeah.
and like that way we can. Implement, modify, whatever, but we have a basis to go on
Yeah.
there, so that we know how we could carry this through and who
Yeah.
is needed to volunteer for various roles.
Okay,
That way it's a little less nebulous for us.
yep. So to Victoria's point, does anyone need additional info? Jean, it sounded like you said you might need additional info.
I got it. Thank
You got it. Does everybody feel like they have the info in order to make the decision?
Wait,
Yeah.
The decision for the motion.
for the motion
Yes.
or for expressing, or for Victoria's question?
Oh, great point. Both.
Oh,
Two, for it to exist. And two, for interest.
propose your good question.
No, no, I don't have any additional questions for
Okay.
those two, to make those two decisions.
So I move to establish an ad hoc committee that would bring an actionable proposal before this board for the May board meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
No, second, too. What do you call it?
Yes, sorry, I really should have learned shorthand.
Well, if you may say that.
You carry tools in your purse.
Yeah.
People need short.
You got it.
No, anyway, okay, that was.
Mills moved,
That was
Nolan
Mills
seconded.
on, yeah. All right, Dada,
Yes.
Bulls,
Yes,
Huggins, yes. Kelleher.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Shay,
Yes.
Shire.
Yes.
And Wallen.
Yes.
All right.
excellent. So, even though we're moving now to new business, and I thought we could have the discussion of the appointments there. We'll discuss it in an executive session, come back out and make the decision about who's appointed to the committee. Okay, speaking of appointments. In April, we are to have, you have a memo in your packet. About our boards, and please forgive me that I was like, I know she's on something, but I couldn't remember what it was. Yes,
Yeah. I have there are a couple of omissions on the table.
a couple of,
Omissions on the table.
oh, please.
So. I am also on the management committee. And Victoria is also on the communications committee.
Victoria also just joined the finance committee, but that's as of.
that's
Victoria
coming
is
up,
on.
That's coming up, right? Yeah.
Okay. So. Let's do them line by line, shall we?
Okay, sounds good.
And I'm actually, first, we're gonna start with the nominating committee. Is there anyone who would like to volunteer to serve on the nominating?
That's pretty time bound, isn't it?
Yes, it
I
is,
will offer myself to you.
but you can't.
Oh,
because you're rolling
right.
off.
You're only on, I forgot about that.
So it has to be somebody whose term is not up. Okay, Aribo, thank
Aribo.
you.
Esther.
Esther. Make me look at you. Victoria, thank you.
Wow, no fully.
Can you be on the committee and also be in that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yes,
It's actually, I mean, in my experience, it's an easy lift.
yeah,
Yeah.
Who wants to do?
Yeah,
Excellent.
it's conversations.
all right, so management committee, which currently is, now this is where, let's make sure we have it right. I'm on management, Aripo is automatic, the vice president is automatically on the committee.
I'm sorry, do we need a chair of the nominating committee, or is it just,
Oh.
Oh,
We typically, the nominating committee.
Oh, determines that.
it's not, okay,
Yeah.
perfect, thank you.
Where was that? Right, management. The vice president is the chair of management. And currently Michelle and I and Jean are on that committee, which makes it a committee of 4. So my suggestion would either be for another person to join us, or, Rico, you're not gonna like this, or one person to step off.
Well, I guess I'm strong.
So who would like to join the management committee? It's super fun. There could be snacks. Is that a hand?
Yep.
Yay!
Hooray.
Hooray! Management committee plus Megan
Megan.
and Shay. I don't know why I just call her Shay, but.
I was gonna offer to step off, but there's too much interplay between finance and management.
Yeah. I know.
You
That's-
just be
I
kind
was gonna say anything, I'm like, can I technically get off?
There'd be like a whole new headache for you.
I mean,
Yeah.
you could, you just be sitting in all the meetings.
Right.
Right, yeah.
All right, finance, which is currently just Michelle and I. Oh, no,
No.
Victoria has said she wanted to volunteer.
Yeah.
Hooray!
Finance is fun.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's the thing reminded me of.
I know, she was awesome. So, if Victoria joins, that makes it a 3-person. So if 2 other people wanted to join, you could, if you were so inclined. Okay, no.
And available at 3 p.m. on a Thursday.
Right, facilities, so facilities is currently, Katie as the chair,
Megan and
Megan and Victoria.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to step off of facility.
Okay, so that means,
That's right, that's what he's something else.
It's really interesting, but then, God, never mind. I won't put us into those weeds, never mind.
In the way that some of this was circumstances this year.
Yeah.
But if it is more of a committee where the meetings are not as regular. I would recommend we may just need one person. Or, you know, like, I don't know that we need three.
You mean like a
people in this.
2-person, so only one person has to be there
Yeah,
technically,
you
but there'll
know,
be a quorum?
because, yeah,
I feel like the feedback that I provided from having been on this committee is that. There's not I mean, unless there's a reason for us to vote on something. I mean. Unless we need to vote on like a contract renewal and stuff, it's, a lot of it is. Finding out about something after the emergency has occurred, like, um. It's an interesting committee.
we haven't had leadership
We haven't had
in
any,
this
yeah,
space in a long time.
and I'm
Maybe
not,
that will change, I mean, that.
The charter of the committee is also not just. Like physical plan, it's also conversation about like how the library is spaces.
spaces are
and
used, yeah.
utilized and. So for example, things like partnership with other
Mhm.
community institutions would come to that committee. So just to add that is part of the charter as well.
Except we, I mean. What was, of course, we just had well, beefing up the wording of facilities usage for trivia event. It's like close to this.
Right, I forgot about that.
I can join that.
Huh, you'll join?
I was about to say that it has a lot of overlap with management. Management tends to do a lot of the stuff anyway. Almost like a subcommittee of management.
And we'll need to come back to that committee in June anyway. And we'll be the
Yeah.
chair.
Okay,
and-
true.
Yeah,
fabulous. DEIB, now,
No, that's Sammy.
Stephanie and
You and
Sandy and five, plus five.
so I've been thinking a lot about this committee. And what, I don't know if we all were aware or remember, but we had a racial equity task force.
Recap,
And Rita, I tried to make that name happen and it,
whatever, that's what I called it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. As a marketer, I feel very delighted by that. And we, as a board, decided that we wanted the insights of that committee to be authentic and meaningful and non-performative. And so we made it a subcommittee of the board rather than just a task force that, you know, they were shouting into the void. The challenge has been, Esther did in fact warn us a number of times that the challenge was going to be getting people to the meetings. And that suddenly it went from being able to have virtual meetings to not being able to have virtual meetings because of the
Yeah.
the open meeting, OMA concerns. So what I'm thinking should happen is that at least one other trustee should be on that committee at the very least. So, and
So you mean three trustees, not two?
right, because it has to be a noticed meeting anyway, like that's not making it less,
Oh, right,
Notice.
that's why it was two.
Right. but then that means, so then that would make it a committee of an even number, right? Cause it's 7 right now, right? So then it would be a committee of 8, which, you know, is not great. But I wonder if having another trustee there would solve some of these meeting issues. Particularly if we have the, you know, you can join virtually. Then people would be able to join virtually. If two trustees are always there, people would be able to join virtually.
I have a question.
Shoot. Or is that right? No, 3 trustees.
Three trustees, well,
depends how big the.
you need 5 people, for quorum, right? So I wanted to know how many of your community members traditionally come.
2, right?
If 2 traditionally come, then yes, we should have
Right.
3, and then that would make the 5 for the other ones to be
To
virtual.
be there
Right.
virtually, yeah.
You don't look delighted.
Yeah,
I mean, I think I'm for having another trustee on the committee. I'm not sure that's going to be the problem solver that we think that we're thinking it's gonna be.
No.
So, I'm not sure what to say. I'd like to be able to discuss with the committee. I mean, what I will say is that the difficulties that we have had have, for the most part, been permissible reasons. So it hasn't been that people just didn't show up, right? If they have been permissible reasons.
So wait a minute, I thought the issue was quorum. The issue is
Well,
not quorum.
The issue is like, so they're still not there, so they,
Oh, it's not that they wanted to attend virtually, it's that they were not able to attend.
So those,
Because
so
of-
three that do come are
Yeah.
not in person. The two that you normally have are not in person, or they are? How many can?
the two who come are in person. Yes,
But
and
the other-
the two who regularly come.
Right,
Two, sometimes three, who regularly come have in person, have been in person, but it has either been, I mean, it's been for permissible reasons.
Right.
Yeah, so,
But you need to have 5
right,
in order for.
so if all,
So all the trustees.
and the
yeah,
two,
and
one
the
trustee
two
can
community
come
members.
and the two,
we need to have 4 in person, because the committee's 7.
will be at the trust.
If we have the trustees.
Then the committee would be 8.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy, yeah, I see how it's not silver bullet.
Oh,
How do we solve that? I mean, I feel like if this committee fails. Like. I just don't, I don't want this committee to fail. I want this to succeed.
I have a question,
Sure.
I just don't remember the number 7 for the committee. Where we got that number, that's a large committee.
So,
It was originally larger, we pared it back.
Yeah,
yeah, we did pare it back to 7, so originally we discussed 9, and then there was discussion around not making that committee larger than the actual trustee. Right, so then we did pare it down to 7. But the reason was so that we had a good representation from the community.
And I'm wondering if it's pared down more
to 5.
to 5. If that would help, and then. Anyone can be, like, it's an open committee, so people can come on, and even if they're not, there every single time. They can say, I'm interested in being here, and they can come to the meetings, but if you have a 4 of 5. And we do, then if you have 5, and that means 3 is what you need for 3 in person, right? So everyone else can be virtual, you can still have your meeting. So I don't know if it's the community members as a collective make a decision of, these are the months that I'm gonna come in person, right? Or something like that, so that we have different, making sure that we do have that community voice. But being able to solve that problem of such a large group.
I
I feel like you know a secret or something like.
I hear you, and I can see that. My 2 questions are, so then how do we pare it down when the committee does have 7 bodies? They're all seated. And the other thing is that, seeing as how this is a committee that involves community members, I am a little concerned that community members would not understand attending the meeting, and who used to be on the committee, attending the meeting and no longer having a voice.
Well, they could have, there could be an agenda item called community feedback that is separate from, public comment, where somebody who is not a seated member would be able to provide feedback to the committee.
You're right, about this, people will see already how that decision be made, and come resolved, because you wouldn't want to take, trustees off. Just because of the numbers and having a quorum. Right, I mean, we could take the trustees off, but they get.
Well, trustees get kicked off if they don't come to the meetings. That's actually one of the reasons that the mayor can remove you.
So in this discussion, are we, I guess, is the primary question, should we add another trustee seat?
So can I add, I'm sort of brainstorming here on today, because I'm wondering if we had like set aside any time to do it, because we come back to this meeting often and then we get into this like cycle I've observed of like trying to real time brainstorm. So I'm like, just trying to do some real on the fly research, not anything in depth. One idea that came up that we haven't entertained, I don't think, in detail, I'm just wondering if, I'm saying this out loud, all not to be critical at all, but rather to say like, should we table this, come back to it later after we've done some more formal research? One idea that we could think about a little bit more is actually what would be the consequences, like the pros and cons of turning it back more into a more, like advisory group, task force type thing, where we inculcate that role in some way. We were trying to give it some teeth and really hold ourselves accountable to the community members, but we're not doing that. The outcomes, we're not getting what we want here. And so like, how do we find something that works a little bit better? And for everybody, right? We're wasting everyone's time right now and that's not working for us. And so we have some like, some people call them operational challenges on our board side, here, but even if we had perfect attendance on our side of things, like. We still have a challenge here on the community members attending a routine meeting like this that make it difficult to get the engagement we want to make this effective. So what are some maybe creative ways that we could use to solve this? And that's why I proposed tabling it maybe and asking whoever's interested. I'm happy to help brainstorm ideas too, but I want this to work also.
Yeah.
I have two thoughts. I just want to respond to this, is that I get what you're saying about not. The work of the board has to happen in public meetings. The work of the board should not be happening outside of the board meeting. Like, I totally get the logic of like, we could all go off, think about it, come back.
I meant more than somebody prepare a memo.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Okay.
But. It does feel like in the desire to give the committee teeth, sort of hamstrung it.
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
by
I just,
tying
we're
it.
not the only people that have this problem, and so what I was saying was like, could we research it actually to see what other people have done
Yeah.
in
Not really.
Denver, Pittsburgh, or wherever, where they must be having the same issue and figure out like where we've seen this model successful somewhere.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't have, maybe their OMA laws aren't as.
They got rid of these.
Would it
these
help to
committees.
wait until the new board members are joining and see
Sorry, sometimes very loud.
the new trustees that are coming in a few months, right? So will that help or not impact this? Could that be a consideration if we were to defer the conversation?
I don't know, I was actually thinking the idea that you had about outside of citizen comments, having a feedback session. And I wonder if we can attach that to one of our meetings, like either management or communication, where we invite that kind of communication regularly in those meetings.
I had a similar.
So that, the community members can't come in and have those discussions, right? And I don't know what that looks like, and if it's across multiple, right? Because if we're thinking about, it can be in facility, we're thinking about how.
I was gonna say,
Space,
it
it can
could
be in
assist-
communication, it can be in. Right, it can be a standing thing that we have in our 3 meetings that we already have during the month. That they can come in and, work in that space.
I wonder if we're gonna run into the same problem, which is I can't go at that time, but I can come at this other time.
Yeah.
Which is like a little tough. It's not just that they can't come at our time, I mean, I imagine it's like. They aren't available at each other's times anyway. I mean, it's hard, life is complicated and we're asking. I mean, Jean can't come to the finance meeting because she works, it's
Yeah.
just like everyone's got their work schedule. I can't schedule it at a different time because of my obligations. We're all got it. Oh, God.
So,
You were.
Can we table this?
Yeah,
I
I
guess what I'm formally proposing is that Esther put a memo together for next month, maybe researching some options and. You know, to the extent other people have ideas. They can. Throw the ideas and not discuss them with Esther, but throw them at her. For her to put in a memo,
How would they do that?
say, read this link. I don't know.
I think, that would be deliberation.
It's not, okay, what's a way to, Esther's gonna research on her own and then bring the memo,
I think what we can, when she brings it, it becomes an agenda item that we are prepared to.
right, there you go,
Yeah.
that's right, everyone, you research it on your own when you see the memo. There you go, sorry to do that to you, Esther, I don't see any other way around this.
No.
I mean, Esther does have a fellow committee member.
True.
I think the trickiest part here is that this work is so important.
It
We
is.
all believe that,
Yes.
Yeah,
and it's urgent and important to be continued.
yes,
So that's what's hard about tabling it, but I don't know how we solve for what's happening right now, you know?
Yeah.
In the current state.
I mean, this is a dumb, maybe proposal, but what if it were quarterly instead of as regular as it is?
So
It's
actually,
sort of semi-regular now, right?
so we've gone through many different iterations. And so we actually found that committee members, we were losing momentum by not meeting. more regularly.
Okay.
So we were doing every other month, and found that that was not working, and so moved to every month. Right, but within that time, there is like, I think that there were. With basically some of the challenges were not what we thought the challenges actually were, and so. I'd like a little bit of time to process through that.
it's not a dumb idea, if you want to keep up with it too.
All right, last, so DEIB is tabled until May.
Yes.
Okay. And then, communications committee. So that is currently, Jean is the chair. And it has,
Esther, Katie, and Victoria.
and that's 4, right? So.
Katie is gonna roll off.
Right.
And Katie's also taking on this new ad hoc thing, so,
Okay,
well, Katie's rolling off.
I'm rolling out,
Answer.
so could it just be the 3?
yep,
If possible, I would like to roll off.
okay. So is there anyone that we're looking for one volunteer, by we, I mean me, one volunteer for communications? I would volunteer, except that I'm about to be on. Or like.
I think Sammy.
So hold your horses. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But
I was gonna say, if whoever is, can we like hold a placeholder for president, because I think whoever's president makes sense to have one. Committee, I think that's been one of the challenges we've had.
yeah,
It's been there needs to be a nexus point.
Yeah.
Probably in that committee.
That's a good point.
all right. Okay. So technically it'll be me until it's done. There you go. There. Okay. So I think, I was about to say, can I just do one item of all of these? Cause they're all sub of the same thing. Can I know? All right, so let's not make up stuff. Let's do it one by one. So, appointment to nominating committee,
The agenda item is appointment to board committee.
right?
Yeah, it is one.
Yeah,
agenda.
so you should
Yeah,
say
yeah,
yes.
you could do it.
So,
Yeah.
okay, I agree with you. So yes, plus the tabling of DEIB and Situ, right?
Yes.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the appointments that we just discussed to all of the board committees, plus the tabling of appointments of DEIB to our May meeting?
So moved.
I was like, Michelle,
I know, let's,
is there a second?
Second,
Thank you.
all right. I'll fix that later. All right. Motion is to approve the appointments and the tabling of the AP. Dada,
Yes.
Bulls?
Yes.
Huggins, yes. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mills?
Yes.
Shay?
Yes.
Shire?
Yes.
Wallen?
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent. Our next new business item is the fiscal year 2026 non-union merit increase. Before you say anything, is there anyone who has questions about this item? You have a question?
no, I was gonna say, I'm happy to get some context, because I gave the finance committee, I think a lot of people are there for that.
Yeah,
If
so I feel like
anyone
we
read
can
the
just
memo,
move to the-
forward, we can vote.
Right, and so I was gonna say, I'll entertain a motion to, wait, let me make sure I know the number. Yeah, oh, it's not lettered, okay, so, is there a motion to, give a merit increase of 2.5% to the non-union employees?
So moved.
Yes.
Second. All right, Dada,
Yes.
Bulls?
Yes,
Huggins, yes. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mills?
Yes.
Shay?
Yes.
Shire?
Yes.
Wallen?
Yes.
All right.
see how fast that was? Next item.
Say nothing.
Right, like now I'm like, wanna make sure that we don't waste time. Are there questions about the next item of the transfer of endowment funds from Vanguard to Evanston Community Foundation? Does anybody have any questions about that item?
So this was also discussed with the finance. committee.
I just wanna summarize what I remember.
Sure.
Which is, we have three options that we're discussing. Or are we voting on a recommendation?
So someone could, on their own, say, I move that we do option one. Someone else could say, I move that we do option two, like,
Was there no recommendation of the finance?
Um,
I didn't hear this part of the.
finance recommended one of three options for the
Yeah.
board to decide.
All right, so maybe we should,
So perhaps a reading of the options would be good.
Yeah.
Do we need a reading of the options?
are those in the management?
But that they are in the meeting, they are in the,
Page
packet.
59.
I can read it.
It's the last page.
Oh. Geez.
Yeah,
So, we have option one, maintain their current structure, keeping both Vanguard and ECF accounts. Option two, transfer all remaining endowment funds from Vanguard to ECF. Any future stock gifts received by the library would be treated as endowment contributions rather than donations to the annual operating fundraising campaign. This option requires an update to the library's gift acceptance policy. Option three, transfer all funds from Vanguard to ECF and establish a sub-account within ECF to manage stock transactions. Proceeds from stock gifts would be directed to the library's annual donation account rather than the endowment. This option requires maintaining a minimum balance of $10,000 in the sub-account.
does everybody feel clear about the three options?
I would move that we adopt option three.
So, is there a second?
Second. Discussion.
Yeah, it's been discussed.
Three.
I just have one question, just so I understand this. So that option allows us, I think I read somewhere where it allows us to use that money easier, right? Like there was an issue about we can actually use it.
Yeah.
That's right. Because the money in the endowment is not,
We can't move this.
Right.
Right.
this would allow us.
So using it, we just want to make sure. Thank you.
And putting our money in the PCF is the right thing to do.
Yes.
Actually, it reflects our values.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
It's called
Ready
the
to
roll.
call the roll? Okay.
Yeah.
Dada,
Yes.
Bulls,
Yes.
Huggins, yes. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mills,
Yes.
Shay,
Yes.
Shire,
Yes.
Wallen.
Yes.
All right.
Yahoo. The next item on the agenda is actually was the old business that we already conducted. So our next item is an executive session.
Ready?
Pursuant to by Illinois compiled statutes, ILCS 120/2A, I move that the Evanston Public Library Board convene into executive session, discuss an agenda item regarding personnel. This agenda item is a permitted subject to be considered in executive session and among enumerated exceptions under the Open Meetings Act. These exceptions are C1, C2, and are set forth as follows. 2C, exceptions. A public body may hold closed meetings to consider the following subjects. The appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on the complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity, or collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. Is there a second?
Second.
Dada,
Yes.
Bulls,
Yes.
Huggins, yes, Kelleher.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Shay,
Yes.
Shire,
Yes.
Wallen.
Yes.
All right.
Okay,